In this video, this is the last one. This is a review of this amendments to the Constitution specifically related to civil liberties and civil rights. So we're talking amendments basically 1 through 10 and then a couple of others. If you have your American government sheet that I put on Moodle with the constitutional questions, these would be on the last part of it, the last page, and they would be talking about um, these various questions about the amendments. So what I'm going to do is quickly just answer the questions. Okay, what should be the rules? Is question one, Amendment one. What should be the rules be about religion? Well, remember about religion. There's under the First Amendment to the Constitution, there's two parts to it, the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause. The Establishment Clause, the operative thing is the Lemon Test, and the Lemon Test basically tries to keep the government neutral regarding religion. The Free Exercise Clause is decided on a case-by-case basis. So the use of peyote is not allowed, but use of animals, chickens, is allowed. So there's no real test for the Free Exercise Clause. Question B under Amendment 1. What should be the rules about speech? Remember, there's all these different tests, clear and present danger, direct incitement, corporate speech, and um, symbolic speech and political speech. And basically the idea is that you have great freedom when you speak, but you can't hurt somebody else. Okay? Your words cannot say we're going to hurt this person, or you can't encourage people to do damage to somebody else. Okay? So you have the right to hold your speech, but there's limits in terms of how it affects others. Okay? What are the rules about the press? Largely the same as they are about speech. Keep in mind that national security is clearly an issue anytime you think about publishing anything. And also, in terms of freedom of the press, um, I forgot it now. We're going to stop this for a second while I look. Okay, I'm back. What I forgot about was uh, prior restraint. Can you stop someone from speaking? Can you stop someone from publishing something until they published it? And the answer is no. People have the right to say what they think. They have the right to publish what they think, with the exception of national security. So you can say things. You have to bear the consequences of them, but you can say things. Keep in mind when you talk about speech and press, you also have to worry about libel and slander. Okay, libel is publishing slander, speaking lies. Those are not protected under the Constitution. And there's also obscenity. And obscenity is not protected under the Constitution. Anytime I say it's not protected, that means it can be regulated. So when you think about obscenity, then guess what? The government can regulate it, but what is the definition of obscenity? And right now, it basically means child pornography. Okay. So the next question, what should be the rules about assembly and with other people and protesting? Again, we have the right to get together with other people. It's got to be reasonable. The government regulates it by issuing a permit, but the regulations have to be reasonable. That's the key thing. Reasonable, reasonable, reasonable. Okay, Amendment 2. What are the rules about ownership and possession? The operative clause is usually the 10th Amendment. You follow what takes place in your state. Texas has great freedom regarding gun ownership. At the same time, under the U.S. Constitution, the Second Amendment allows for individual ownership of weapons, but it's not an absolute right. It's limited. And so it's limited by what takes place at the state level. Next up, Amendments 3 through 8. What should be the rules about your house and possessions? Okay, what we're talking about is the Fourth Amendment. We're talking about due process, a guarantee of procedures that must be followed. In this Fourth Amendment, you look at whether the person is a pedestrian, whether they're in a vehicle or in their home. Greatest amount of freedom you have is in your home. Least amount of freedom you have is when you're driving in a car because you're on government roads. And then the middle is pedestrians. Think about a Terry stop where a police officer, if they have probable cause, can stop you. And uh, with probable cause, um, if they sense that their life is in danger, they can actually search you. Okay, also keep in mind that people can be stopped and frisked with reasonable suspicion. So again, this concept of reasonableness, think about that when you think about the amendments to the Constitution. Okay, when you're driving, you have diminished expectations of privacy. The plain view test is really important. A police officer can stand outside your car with a flashlight, look in, and see what's going on inside there. Okay, and of course, in your home, greatest expectation of privacy. But if you put your trash out in the street for the city to pick it up, you're giving it to the police for them to examine. And also, there's the concept of hot pursuit. Someone running by, and runs in your house, police officers follow. They don't need a search warrant to do that. Fifth Amendment. Um, Oh, here's a question. Can the government search you and seize you or your property? They can, under the Fifth Amendment, with due process, if they follow the rules in the Constitution. So, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, and Eighth Amendments really lay out due process. Government can arrest you, they can seize your property if they follow the rules. Okay? Uh, Can a person be charged with the same crime more than once? That's double jeopardy, and no, they can't. Can someone be forced to testify against oneself? No, you can't. You cannot be forced to testify against yourself. Who must decide if a person is guilty or not? A jury. Okay. Jury in the tradition of the United States is a jury of 12, and last month the Supreme Court said the jury must be unanimous. Okay, now we're on to question F. What are the qualifications to be one of the people deciding someone's guilt? Again, um, a peer, okay? Someone's peer. So basically, it's decided by each state, and each state lays out the rules who gets to be on the jury and who does not. Here in Texas, of course, we've talked about this before. If you're a college student, you're usually excused from jury duty. College professors are not excused from jury duty. Okay? Should one should the one deciding should the one deciding guilt be impartial? And the Supreme Court has consistently said under the Sixth Amendment, yes, you should be impartial. You should be able to put aside any prejudices, any biases that you have about people, about police, whatever, and decide on the facts of the case as presented in the trial. Here's a question. Does the accused person have a right to confront the witnesses against that person? The answer is yes. You very much have a right. This causes issues in child abuse cases and in spousal abuse cases. So there is provisions to allow for people to testify, and it's an attorney rather than the accused who's actually in there during that testimony. How long should the process last to determine someone's guilt? You have a right to a speedy trial, but what is the definition of speedy? Nobody knows. And on top of that, um, the jury can take as long as they want to decide a case. Okay, there's no time limit on it. What is the amount involved? And this question J here, what is the amount involved to have the right to sue someone? That's in the Seventh Amendment. I said, don't worry about the Seventh Amendment. If you're curious for the answer, it's $20. Okay, what kind of punishments are allowed and not allowed? Simple answer, we're talking about the Eighth Amendment to the Constitution. We are talking about cruel and unusual punishment is not allowed. And therefore, the only question is, what is cruel and unusual punishment? Supreme Court uses something called the evolving standards of decency. So what might have been allowed at one point, the guillotine, for example, chopping off your head, no longer allowed. The court, in terms of death penalty, really looks favorably on lethal injection more than anything else. Amendments 9 to 11. Is there a right to privacy? Supreme Court says there is, but the words privacy are not found in the Constitution, so it's found in various places in the Constitution. And the right of privacy is really restricted to marriage, sexual relations, and reproductive. Okay, what rights do states have? The states have the rights. This is covered in question B. This is the 10th Amendment. Uh, the states have the rights um, that are not given to the federal government. So the federal government on the Constitution doesn't have anything about health care. So that's a right the states have. Education is a right the states have. Okay? Can you sue in a federal court or in state courts? The answer is you can sue in both. And so just answering the questions that are here, I'm not going to include Amendment 9 through 11, question B and C on the test. Amendments 13 through 15, 19, 24, and 26. Is slavery allowed? No, it's not. What is a citizen? Citizen is somebody who's born in the United States or United States territory or is naturalized in the United States. Must all people be treated equally? Yes. This is the 14th Amendment, civil rights. Yes, all people must be treated equally. Can you discriminate against people? If it's reasonable. And I mentioned we don't give driver's licenses to 3 years old, the 3-year-olds. We just don't do it. And that's a reasonable thing to do. That's blatant discrimination against 3-year-olds. And it's a good discrimination too. Okay? Can a state take away rights granted to a person by the federal government? Can a state take away rights granted to a person by the federal government? The answer is no. I'm not going to ask you that on the test. Who could vote? Anyone over the age of 18 in the United States. But states can take away your right to vote. If you're over the age of 18, you're not a citizen. You can't vote. And also, if you're a felon, the states can take away your right to vote. And so therefore that answers who can't vote. Non-citizens can't vote and felons possibly can't vote. Can people be taxed or fined for voting or not voting? And that, believe it or not, is the 24th Amendment to the Constitution. And the answer is no. You cannot be fined for voting or not voting. And last question on this sheet, Amendments 18 to 21. Can any of the rights of the people be taken away? And yes, in the 18th Amendment, people lost the right to drink. Okay, it's called prohibition. And then they realized that was a stupid idea. It led to more crime and more drinking. So they gave us back the right to vote, to drink. So can our rights be taken away? Yes, but only through an amendment to the Constitution. Okay, so this is just a quick review of the questions that are on your sheet that I put on Moodle, civil liberties and civil rights. Okay, focus for the test on the actual videos that I put on there, numbers 11 through 22. Take care.